Now, let me see if I can explain this to a lot of folks who are missing the point completely. Fox News is not going away. It's not this perceived decimation and destruction and internecine battles and people responding, Bill Shine's missing, Bill Shine's quitting. Nobody knows who Bill Shine is. Same thing with Steve Bannon. Nobody knows who Steve Bannon. I mean, you might. The country doesn't. You're missing the point altogether. Altogether. You're not going to get, and the other versions or iterations of news, they're not going to get the Fox spillover, the Fox audience after this erroneously anticipated and very mistaken bloodletting and purge and destruction and that sort of thing. Look, let me see if I can explain this to you. The biggest reason that everybody is doing this, including that of Murdoch, and don't misunderstand this, is the fact that Fox is bidding for, actually 21st Century Fox is bidding for Sky, the Sky TV network in the UK. They have a very specific, a very, for lack of a better word, a very interesting aspect where it can be scotched, the deal can be removed. Let me give this light here. The deal can be shelved, scotched, killed, whatever you want to call it, if it's shown to be not proper. I should have done more light balance here. If it could have been shown to not have been proper or whatever it was. Kind of like in the old days remember when they said that you can go at any time and look into the files of your local TV stations to determine whatever you were going to look for. But the idea was that airwaves, and this is the FCC, now classic airwaves, were basically, they belong to the people, and the government provided a license, and a license can be revoked at any time, and that this was an honor, and you had to maintain certain levels of whatever it was. So what they're doing right now is, number one, they're trying to do everything in their power to show the UK, hey, listen, we're doing our best here in the U.S. They really don't care about Megyn Kelly or Gretchen Carlson or any of these individual cases. It's the atmosphere. It's anything to basically to shove or to shut down Murdoch. That's number one. Number two, there is an absolute avalanche of lawsuits involving everything you can. Oh, there it is. The Lionel mug. By the way, sales have been, honey? Sales have been booming.
Somebody bought 50 t-shirts yesterday.
50 t-shirts. And you know what the biggest seller is? Ready for this? The flasks. What does this say about you? Anyway, don't forget, Christmas is just around the corner, and this makes a great gift, a great stocking stuffer, fine for dad or grad. Anyway, there is a plethora of lawsuits. One, sexual discrimination because a woman was fired because of some kind of medical. Remember when you were a kid? Did you ever hear this? I did. Somebody would say, well, your Aunt Pepina, Tia Pepina's in the hospital. Why? Well, she had female surgery. I never understood what that female surgery was. Well, apparently there was something about either endometriosis or something when somebody had some type of retaliatory, I don't know what it was. But the point is, they must have an inbox over there for the serving the complaints at Fox. I mean, they just must get served all the time. Because there's a lawsuit every day and a settlement. So they're just, it's open house. It is a, if you've got any claim about anybody, now's the time to do it. But two things are happening. Number one, it's that Sky deal. I'm telling you, that's worth billions. That's bigger than Bill O'Reilly or any of these other people. Next, there is a new culture. There are the Murdoch boys and maybe a wife or two. And never underestimate the power of a spouse. Never, ever underestimate the influence that a spouse has in terms of making suggestions or saying what they don't like or what have you. It's as old as time. And there's a lot of stuff that needs to be, because some of it is just hackneyed. It has to be. There is so much can be done. Yes, they can improve. Don't veer too much from your product, that which brought you the prominence which you enjoyed. But these are different times and whatever it is. So right now, it's the Sky problem. It's the lawsuits. Yes, it's also the Murdoch influence, and also it's a time for a revolution. It's a time for a revolution. I was watching the other day. Did you happen to catch the interview of the members of the Godfather, Pacino and De Niro and Talia Shire, James Caan, Jimmy Caan as I call him, and Robert Duvall with Coppola with Matt Lauer? Oh my God! First of all, they're I don't know if maybe if De Niro always said nothing. Did he always have nothing to say? Was he always? And poor Al Pacino with that bird's nest wig thing he's got on with the posh headband, and what is it? Plus he had in his mouth, that lip jam, that lip booger, that globule, this mucosal orb right here. And as he spoke, I can't do this thing he does with his dentures don't fit, the appliances don't fit. He's talking differently. He's kind of like Stephen Stills is I don't know why he's talking like that. What's happening with these people? James Caan sounds like he's gonna, he's emphysemic. It was sad. But anyway, by the way, Johnny Russo, remember that? Johnny Russo, who played Rizzi, remember that? Carlo Rizzi. Johnny Russo is everywhere in New York. Everywhere. Any opening, any book signing, the Friars Club, this club, any. I've seen him more. Carlo, who was strangled or whatever it was, absolutely gone. By the way, in that strangling scene, when they put the garrote or the garrote, garrote's more like an attic, but the garrote, when I don't know if it was Clemenza did it or somebody else. Again, they showed this struggle, this kicking, there's involuntary reaction, but once you have the sleeper, you're out. They never get that right. They never get that right with hanging. They never get that right with them. But I digress. If you want to see where it's going and the anachronism that is today, just watch that interview. Watch the Today Show. Watch this thing and say, what planet do they live on? And where are they? What is going on here? What is happening? Do they not know what is going on in the world today? Do they not understand? I'm looking at, and my wife and I, we start in the morning. I start very early. Sometimes 3:30, even beforehand. Just start looking at stuff, getting, because UK is already, they've got some 5 or 6 hours ahead of us. And so I just look at stuff and start tweeting and reading and see what's going on. And I see this world of people who basically are part of a clubhouse. And these are I guess you would call them the left, the progressives, I don't know what you want to call them. But they spend their day just writing articles and posting articles about how terrible Trump is, how he's going to be impeached somehow, some way. We don't know how or why. I don't know. We don't know how he's going to be impeached or for what. But somehow he's and he's crazy. He's incoherent. Nancy Pelosi's incoherent. By the way, I'm not a Trump supporter. I know it's going to be a shock to you. But I'm thinking to myself, you're missing the point altogether if you think somehow that Trump is some kind of that Trump's incoherent. He ain't. You don't understand what's going on. Oh, and this latest thing. By the way, the best spin machine, bar none, is CBS. CBS and Colbert. Absolutely amazing with this stuff. Every day, Stephen Colbert decimates. Now, the problem is, we got some very serious problems. We have, number one, we are taunting Russia by putting our troops in NATO also in Poland. That's not being covered. You want a war with Russia? You think Russia? You think you're in this thing? Because I don't. I don't want any more wars. I don't want war. Period. And by the way, good for Duterte. Speaking of the Filipino big shot, I put in Duterte, Duterte, and it came out my Siri, whatever my translation dictation function on my phone over came back 230, which is interesting. But they're now saying, wow, I can't believe that Trump's talking to him. Why? Because they hate Trump, and Trump is they don't really know why they're saying this. They just do. They just hate him, and they have no idea. Now let me get this straight. Trump, we're friends with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is this medieval, primitive, despotic, horrible, treacherous, absolutely barbaric regime that decapitates people, Christian women. I mean, what they're doing to Yemenis or Houthis, it is just horrible. And that's okay. Or did you not know that? See, they don't know this. They have no idea. Because the left today is in this Antifa kind of a march, climate change, let's talk about. It's incoherent. And let me say something, and I want you to understand this, and it's very important that you understand this. I told you before, don't have labels that are used to explain your ideology. I have a friend of mine. If you sat next to him and I would say, listen to what he says, read what he posts, he's brilliant. One of the most brilliant people I know, bar none. Knows more internationally than anyone. He's my go-to guy. He would be in my cabinet. He'd probably be my Secretary of State. Okay? And if you listen to him and I said, okay, now what do you think? How would you describe him, his politics? What do you think? You'd probably say conservative, Fox News acolyte, Fox News myrmidon, some water carrier, dim box for the right wing. No. He is a Marxist. But what he says has nothing to do with the usual labels. He's furious with the left, furious with the right, furious, and analyzes issues on the issue and not necessarily on what is being said. How about that? I don't have, and you shouldn't have, any kind of a named ideology. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. I had a talk yesterday with one of my, another, I want to have you meet some, you've met some of them, but one of mine is a retired judge, friend of mine, a retired judge, and one of the best legal minds, one of the best jurists, bar none. We're laughing about how people all of a sudden think that they're experts in legal matters, Supreme Court, and that sort of thing. And we were talking about something, and I said, if I am personally against the death penalty. I made this very clear for a host of reasons. But if I were a Supreme Court justice, I would most probably rule that it is not unconstitutional. It's not unconstitutional. It might be performed unconstitutionally. It might be in practice meted out. It may be violation of due process, procedural due process, obviously. The actual method might be violative of the Eighth Amendment. Perhaps maybe the particular cocktails for the drugs that are used to bring about the death may in fact be problematic, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the death penalty itself is not unconstitutional, no matter how you want to look at it. You want to take a Scalia, originalist, textualist look, fine, or there's nothing in the Constitution that makes killing people, state-sponsored murder, unconstitutional. Doesn't mean I'm for it. There's also something we're talking about the notion of abortion. I'm getting these comments from people that says, don't you understand it's a human life? I said, I already told you. I don't like abortion. I don't want abortion. I don't believe that it's a good thing. However, I don't believe that the government can say to a woman, and this is completely contradictory to my disagreement with the death penalty. Admittedly, absolutely 100% inconsistent, because I do not believe in state-sponsored murder for a penalty. But when it comes to a woman who is pregnant, who has this life, who is attached and tethered to this life, versus somebody on death row, I know you would say, what difference does it make? But for me, there's a difference. I do not believe the state has the right to bar, to forbid, to prescribe, prohibit, or in any way deny a woman in the ability to exercise autonomy over her body as to that child. Now, is there a constitutional right for that? I don't know. Roe against Wade is horrible. Now, why did I just talk about these two cases? To emphasize the point again, and also to go back to what I first said. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today our news, our world is not divided into parties. It's divided into issues. And it's divided into your ability to be able to look and say, yes, I understand this. Yes, I grasp what this is about. Yes, I got it. I understand what this is about. I understand the issue before us. I understand it. I don't care about the history. I don't care about John Kennedy or Lyndon Johnson or Richard Nixon or Reagan. I don't care about that. I don't care what my father was. I don't care what my mother was. I don't care what part of the country I'm in. I don't care if I'm Fox or MSDNC or whether I'm a Rachel fan. No. Your ideology, your ability to critically think depends upon the four corners, so to speak, of the issue document, and has nothing to do with other extraneous issues and policies. If the conversational commentary and political analysis markets are going to win today, if they're going to do that, you're going to have to revise and fix how you're being done this. And by the way, local news in particular, you are facing an existential threat as to your, hence the word, existence. You've given up on this. You keep rehashing the same thing. You're doing the same thing every single day. Talk radio's got to change. You've got to change. The world is different. You've got to understand you need a revolution. And right now, there are so many people out there who do not fall into these cubby holes, these programmatic little positions and cubicles and slots that you think they are, and you're missing a big position. Now, by the way, Fox News, you represent something which is very, very critical, a very critical and important voice. How that voice is implemented and executed is another thing completely. Number two, no organization, an organization that's media, an organization that makes widgets or whatever it is, you cannot have an environment where women or men or anybody, where they are sexually harassed, where you have basically fat pigs running the show. And I'm not speaking of anybody in particular, but people who make horrible comments, boys club kind of locker room world, that is over. Now, whether you like that or not, whether you secretly believe that, whether you really are a locker room guy, whether you loathe women, black people, gays, whatever it is, you can think anything you want. You can harbor it. You can muse, wonder, imagine, think it all you want. You cannot ever implement that. You can't make that an ongoing a corporate policy, which is kind of a mini government in a way. So, to wrap this up, in peroration, the valedictory, Fox News is not going anywhere. News has to change drastically. There has to be something new to actually go after the issues that are far more complicated than whether Bill Shine is shown the door and given a copy of the home game. Okay? Good. Now, next. Thank you for your unbelievable response to our Lionel Nation shop. You can see right below this in the section, this little link. And I mean, my wife and I are just flabbergasted. And thank you for this, because remember, we're not, this is the only thing we've ever, I mean, we're not really asking you for money. We're kind of giving you something. This is a great mug. I mean, it's a mug, whether you like, I mean, seriously, do you ever look at your mugs and say, Montauk Diner, where the hell is this from? I don't care, it's a mug. But you might like this. Also, send me a picture of where you are enjoying your coffee or Java or your flask, because we're selling flasks like you can imagine. Okay? So thank you very much. Like the video, please. Subscribe to the channel and comment as you see fit.